Welcome to the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the world of entrepreneurship.
In this episode, we delve into the heart of what keeps businesses thriving in the long haul: sustainable competitive advantage. Join us as we unpack insights behind building a business that not only survives but flourishes by leveraging unique strengths that competitors cannot easily replicate.
If you're looking to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit and transform your ideas into action, we invite you to follow our podcast.
The Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast is your ultimate launchpad for igniting ideas and skyrocketing your entrepreneurial dreams. Tune in, buckle up, and let's unleash the entrepreneurial spirit within. Your two hosts will be Professor Gary Palin and serial entrepreneur Ryan Budden.
Good morning, Professor Palin. How are you?
Doing very well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing brilliantly as always.
Oh, that's excellent. I see it looks like it's autumn in the background.
Exact opposite of what it actually is. We're fully in spring now here. It's pretty amazing. We've gotten together today to discuss the sustainable competitive advantage. The key to that, before we even jump into it, is the word sustainable in front of it. We've talked a lot about competitive advantages and how to get that, but today we're really talking about how do you keep that for the long term.
That's one of the areas that I look at with many presentations when people are looking for me to invest in their ventures. They will talk with a competitive advantage, but there is not a sustainability factor in Walmart can come in and crush them. Microsoft can come in and crush them. Immediately, my interest is gone.
That's exactly right. So before we jump too much into it, we always like to start with a definition here. Sustainable competitive advantage refers to the unique strengths, resources, or capabilities that enable a company to outperform its competitors consistently over the long term.
Consistently outperform over the long term validates what we were talking about with sustainability.
And that's the hard part. I'm sure you throughout your career, and I all the time, hear companies pitching quick wins that they're not going to be able to keep up for year after year, even month after month sometimes.
Very often you'll see like a market condition shift, but it's fleeting. That's a very dangerous proposition to jump into a fleeting or shifting market condition thinking that you're in for the long term. Or can your tactics be easily imitated? That's a serious problem that lacks the sustainability.
The imitated part brings me to my first strategy on how you can do this, and that's differentiation. How are you truly unique from anything that's offered in the industry?
That unique issue ties directly into the sustainability. What is that unique factor? Say, for example, you have a proprietary technology that's unique, that gives you a competitive advantage that can't be replicated. That would be an example of the point of differentiation that you can continually move forward.
Absolutely. Think about Apple or Tesla with those two. They've clearly figured out the technology component. There are lots of people that are attempting to take market value from them, but have not successfully been able to do that.
Those two examples are leaders in technology innovation, and that's baked into the culture of the company.
Oh, without a doubt. The next one that helps with the sustainability aspect in a huge degree is intellectual property protection. We've sprinkled this throughout a lot of our conversations, and I think we might have even had an entire talk around intellectual property. We'll start with the disclaimer that neither one of us are lawyers, but we've been in this industry for long enough to understand the basic concepts of it.
IP protection is so critical, and if you are dealing with a technology advantage, one of the first connections I would suggest is make sure you have a very good IP attorney.
Yes, a very good one who knows what they're doing. So what do we mean when we say IP?
Well, intellectual property can go from many different issues. For example, the Janus entrepreneurial assessment that you and I are working on, there's intellectual property where really the value of that, which makes it very difficult to replicate, is the very complex algorithm we have built under the hood. So that gives us a sustainable competitive advantage. But I would argue that also there's a resource component that we have, and this might sound egotistical, but one of the components we're dealing with is entrepreneurship education. And I have 40 years of experience with entrepreneurship education in a very deep level. I'm not the only one in the world, but there are not a lot of us. So that makes our resource very rare.
That's right. You have a really deep level of understanding of what exactly we're trying to measure. That's a great one. You mentioned code bases. Code bases are very protected. They'd be considered corporate sensitive security classification. Another big one that's often overlooked are trademarks. Even the name that you're using to broadcast yourself out there can be protected through a simple trademark, or patents. So if you're doing something that's a unique process or a unique way of making something or manufacturing something, you can get patents around that, which offer a lot of protection.
Intellectual property of trademarks is a great example. And that also flows to another area of sustainable competitive advantage is brand reputation. A company that's done a great job with using brand reputation is Coca-Cola.
Without a doubt. Another really big one is Kleenex. We don't even call them tissues anymore. A lot of people just refer to them as the brand name Kleenex. Another big facet of sustaining that is targeting very specific niches or segments. Carving out a space for yourself, if you will, in the industry that you can gain quite a lot of loyalty around because you're really addressing a niche or a need in that.
Customer loyalty is another area that I have as a thought with sustainable competitive advantage. A company that's done a great job with that also, not a niche, but they've done a great job with customer loyalty is Amazon.
People love Amazon, but also the quality of service that you can get from someone like Amazon. Imagine going back to the days where the standard shipping was 7 to 10 days. Most things in Nashville now are overnight or next day.
Yeah, and sometimes in certain areas, because of their supply chain and distribution, hours.
Yeah, I actually had the first experience ever of ordering something and it came 2 hours later. I was blown away. A cool competitive advantage that I found with a specific niche or segment is the company Rolex. They are synonymous with luxury high-end watches because they so well captured the lure, if not the sales, of that industry.
They've created a uniqueness associated with that where it becomes a status symbol.
Without a doubt. Yeah. There are other watches that cost just as much, are manufactured just as high quality, but owning a Rolex is a differentiation point for you.
Yeah, it used to be many, many years ago, I was in the office supply industry, and Mont Blanc pens were along that line. It was a status symbol, and they were incredibly priced when you're looking at putting ink on a piece of paper. In those days, $100 versus a 29-cent, the ink looked the same, but people would pay for that status.
They're beautiful pens as well.
They are, and they're definitely more efficient, more effective than the 29-cent. But if you're looking at putting ink on a piece of paper, that's a big price differential.
For those who aspire to go higher in their entrepreneurial journey, we've got something just for you. Coming up next.
Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneurial potential? Introducing the Janus Entrepreneurial Report, your personalized roadmap to success. In just minutes, discover your unique strengths and areas for growth. Whether you're a seasoned business pro or just starting out, the Janus Entrepreneurial Report will help you identify and leverage your entrepreneurial tendencies. Don't wait, visit ProfSpirit.com and start your journey to success today.
Now, let's dive back into our journey of entrepreneurial insights.
Do you have another category that can help sustain that competitive advantage?
Cost leadership very often can fall into that one. An example of that is Walmart. They're known from a pricing perspective. To sustain it, you have to have quite a large infrastructure. Walmart, as an example, is not one that I would necessarily suggest as most startups get into because the Walmarts come in and crush you with their pricing. But that can be a point of differentiation.
Absolutely, especially if you're able to form some sort of exclusive relationship that can long-term lock that pricing in.
Have you ever heard of the VRIN model?
No, actually.
That's tied with the sustainable competitive advantages also. It stands for valuable, rare, imitatable, and non-substitutable. And so that could be a flow for, do you have a sustainable competitive advantage? The valuable, the resources and capabilities, they add value to the firm, and you can exploit opportunities and neutralize threats in the marketplace as a result. Rare, so is the resource and capabilities, they're rare among current or potential competitors. You look at the diamond industry, it might be an example of there's only a handful of people that have access to the diamonds, and they're rare. Imitating, transparency tied in with, are you able to imitate? If someone can see what you're doing and how you're doing it, and they can imitate you, then that tends to be a short-term competitive advantage. So you want to make sure it can't be easily imitated. Again, I go back to our work with the Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment. Good luck in imitating that algorithm. Possible, but not easy. And then can you come up with a substitute? So can it be easily substituted for something else? And if there's no strategic equivalent to that, that can lead to long-term sustainability. That's the VRIN model.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. I don't know that I've heard it in those exact terms before, but that does highlight some areas to focus on.
There's another one called the VRIO. They substitute resources of the organization. The O is the organization, versus the N with the non-substitutable, just different way of looking at it.
That's actually the last model that I had for doing it, and that was staffing or internal assets. Who are the people? Do you have specific people in industries that can't be matched or mirrored? So you would be a great example in the entrepreneurial education space. You are a valuable resource in itself. Building up that from a company perspective in your employees can help sustain that long-term advantage.
There's a tool that's referred to as a resource-based analysis. You're looking at what resources are necessary to move into a market for sustainable competitive advantages. Then you look within your firm, do you have the critical resources? And if you don't, then it might be a no-go. It could be, can we acquire them? Can we bring them in? So you're looking at what resources are matching with the sustainable competitive advantage. And basically, it's an internal assessment of your company.
That's happening to a big degree in the AI space right now. These large tech companies are really, really competing for individuals that have qualifications to keep driving that forwards.
It's interesting, too, is you're seeing features for AI pop up in everything I touch.
Everything.
Everyone's scrambling for that space. Not everyone's going to survive in that space.
No, this is very reminiscent of the crypto boom or the dot-com boom, where there was a million projects doing a million things, and there's only going to be a few that last the distance, that have that sustainable competitive advantage.
Yeah, if I had that crystal ball and could figure out who's going to be the end of that, I'd be immediately heading to the market to buy some stock.
Yeah, I think most of us would. I think a lot of people are speculating at the moment. Well, great. Do you have any final thoughts on sustainable competitive advantage?
I would just look at your challenges that you face and understand what challenges you face, whether they can be long-term advantage for you. So look at the market changes, what technology advancements are coming into your field, emerging competitors. Those could be factors that you're facing. Keep an eye on regulatory and environmental changes. Those are some examples of some challenges that could impact your sustainable competitive advantage. You want to keep your head up.
Fantastic. Well, let's get entrepreneurial.
Let's get entrepreneurial.
As we wrap up another episode of the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, we extend our gratitude for your presence and attention. Your dedication to the entrepreneurial spirit fuels our passion for creating this podcast. Check out ProfSpirit.com to discover resources and courses designed specifically for innovators like you. Stay on the cutting edge by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and other platforms as it is released. Until then, keep the entrepreneurial flame burning.